Before we dive into today's story, if this is your first time watching one of our videos, we'd love for you to hit that subscribe button. Your support means the world to us and helps us bring you even more powerful stories. Stick with us till the very end. And if this story moves you, share your thoughts in the comments and send it to a friend who needs to hear it. Now, let's begin. At 29, Lydia Mercer stood on the porch of a small brick house on the edge of Wilmington, clutching a jangling set of keys so tightly her knuckles whitened. The air smelled faintly of fresh paint and wet soil from the morning rain, and her chest swelled with a pride so sharp it almost hurt. 10 years of sacrifice had led her here. 10 years of saying no to brunches, of patching her thrift store shoes until the soles flapped, of pulling doubles at diners and late-night copywriting gigs until her eyes burned. When she slid the key into the lock and heard the click, she closed her eyes and whispered, "This is mine." For the first time in her life, she felt untouchable. She slept on an air mattress that first night, surrounded by unopened boxes, grinning into the darkness like a fool. For 3 quiet weeks, her world felt perfect, until the day a thick envelope with a county court seal dropped into her mailbox. Lydia's stomach dropped as she tore it open on the porch steps. Her hands trembled as she flipped through the pages. Plaintiffs: Evelyn and Thomas Mercer. Defendants: Lydia Mercer. "This has to be a mistake," she muttered aloud, but the words blurred as she read them again. Her parents were suing her for buying a house. Lydia had grown up in a prim little cul-de-sac just outside Hartford, where the Mercers were known for their tidy lawn and color-coordinated Christmas lights. From the outside, they were the picture of middle-class normal. Inside, though, every choice, from grocery brands to school electives, passed through Evelyn Mercer's invisible accounting ledger. "Where's your spending notebook?" Evelyn would demand every Sunday, even when Lydia was only 10. "Why did you spend $3 at the corner store?" Lydia would murmur that she'd bought pencils for art class, but her mother would shake her head like she'd committed a sin. "We have pencils at home. This is wasteful." Privacy wasn't a concept in the Mercer household, not with money, not with decisions, not even with thoughts. By the time Lydia was 14, she had a job bagging groceries, proud of her little paycheck until her father insisted she put it into a joint family account to teach you discipline. What it really meant was constant surveillance. "Lip balm?" Again. Thomas would ask, flipping through her transaction log. "There's petroleum jelly in the bathroom cabinet." Lydia's younger brother, Caleb, didn't just accept these rules, he enforced them. "You're not budgeting right," he'd smirk, waving her notebook like a trophy. "Mom says you're slipping." It felt like living under permanent cross-examination. The real fracture came when Lydia turned 17. She came home one spring afternoon to find an acceptance letter already torn open on the kitchen counter. Evelyn stood over it, her lips pressed into a hard line. "You're not going," she said, her tone flat and final. "We agreed on community college. You'll live at home and help build the family reserve." Lydia stared at her, confused. "The what?" "The family reserve," Thomas said from the doorway. "Everyone contributes. It's for our future." But what that future looked like, no one ever explained. That night, Lydia sat on the edge of her bed, shaking with a mix of fury and fear. By morning, she had quietly opened a secret bank account using her friend Maya's address. She started hoarding money, every babysitting dollar, every holiday tip, like a soldier preparing for war. When Windale University offered her a scholarship and a marketing program slot, she didn't ask permission. She packed 2 suitcases and walked to the front door. "If you leave, don't expect us to cover for you," Thomas warned, his voice like ice. Lydia's hand tightened on the doorknob. "Then I won't," she said, stepping into the night. Caleb leaned on the banister, shaking his head. "You're so dramatic. It's just money. You're not special." Lydia didn't answer. The sound of the door closing behind her felt like a sentence being passed. College was nothing like the glossy brochures. Lydia lived in the cheapest dorm with peeling paint, worked 2 jobs during the semester, and spent holidays shelving products at the local supermarket while other students went home to turkey dinners. She survived on instant noodles and black coffee, often whispering to herself at night, "One day I'll have something that's mine." That thought kept her steady when exhaustion made her cry in the library bathroom. After graduation, she moved to Philadelphia and got her first job at a small marketing firm, earning barely $14,000 a year. Her apartment was a cramped row-house room she shared with 3 strangers. The smell of mildew clung to her clothes, and the bathroom door didn't quite close. "Home, sweet home," she muttered to herself her first night, wrapping her arms around her knees. But she kept going. Her routine was punishing. Up at 5:30, walk 2 miles to the subway, office from 8:30 to 5:30, then straight to the cafe where she waited tables until closing. Weekends were spent folding clothes at a discount store. "You're going to burn out," said Tasha, one of her roommates, eyeing her bloodshot eyes. Lydia just smiled faintly. "I'll rest later. Right now I'm building something." Every cent Lydia earned had a job. Her notebook was crammed with columns of numbers: rent, groceries, health insurance, student loans, transit passes. What remained, usually around $800, went directly into savings. She refused to look at her balance. "If I look, I'll start spending," she told Tasha, half joking. Her meals were repetitive: oats for breakfast, peanut butter sandwiches for lunch, rice and beans for dinner. Her wardrobe was even stricter: 7 thrift store outfits, 1 for each day of the week, and a single pair of work shoes that she patched twice with glue. Haircuts she did herself, using a bathroom mirror and YouTube tutorials. She didn't take vacations. "What would I even pack?" she once joked, folding her laundry on the floor. Her one indulgence was a $10 monthly streaming subscription, which she split with all her roommates. "That's my luxury item," she'd laugh. But under the humor was a steel-hard determination. By the 3rd year, her salary had risen, and her friends celebrated by moving into bigger apartments or buying new phones. Lydia didn't. She raised her savings contributions instead. When her coworkers teased her about still living in a shoebox, she simply replied, "I'm working on something big." By year 5, Lydia's life was still brutally frugal, but her discipline was paying off. Her salary had grown to $48,000, and her freelance copywriting brought in an extra $12,000 annually. Still, nothing about her outward appearance changed. She wore the same faded coat she'd bought in college, kept her coffee table made of shipping crates, and still cut her own hair in a mirror. When coworkers invited her to happy hour, she smiled politely and said she had plans, but her plans were spreadsheets and a pot of rice simmering on the stove. "You can't live like this forever," Tasha said one night, flopping onto Lydia's air mattress as they ate reheated leftovers. "You're allowed to be happy, you know." Lydia shrugged, her pencil still scratching over her budget notebook. "Happiness can wait. I want peace first." By the 7th year, she got an offer from a bigger agency, $72,000 a year. The night she signed the offer letter, she ordered her favorite Ethiopian takeout, set it on the floor of her studio, and whispered, "2 more years. 2 more years, and I'm ready." The 9th year arrived with quiet triumph. Lydia logged into her online banking for the first time in years, her heart hammering. When the number loaded, her breath caught. $328,450. She laughed, then cried, then laughed again. "I did it," she whispered to the empty room. 6 more months of double shifts pushed her over $350,000. Enough for a down payment, closing costs, repairs, and a healthy emergency cushion. She spent one night celebrating. A cheap bottle of champagne, her notebook, and a pen. She scribbled a list of neighborhoods to explore. "Nothing fancy," she muttered. "I just want good bones and a roof that won't leak." In the morning, She called 3 real estate agents and eventually chose Jenna Price, a blunt woman with streaks of gray hair and no patience for nonsense. "You've got a champagne budget and a ramen lifestyle," Jenna said, grinning. "I like you already. Let's find you a place that'll last." For 2 months, Lydia and Jenna scoured neighborhoods, trudging through basements with rusted pipes and attics that smelled of mold. "Skip this one," Jenna would say, shaking her head. "Foundation cracks. You'd be broke in 6 months." Lydia trusted her. Most buyers begged for shiny countertops, but Lydia asked about roof replacements, water heaters, and neighborhood insurance rates. "You're my dream client," Jenna said during their 15th showing. "You think like a builder, not a Pinterest board." Finally, they stepped into a 3-bedroom brick house with faded yellow walls, creaky floors, and sunlight streaming through big, old windows. Lydia stood in the middle of the living room, her throat tight. "This feels like mine," she said softly. That evening, Jenna placed an offer of $275,000. The seller countered. They settled at $282,000. The inspection came back nearly flawless, just peeling paint and cosmetic updates. The mortgage approval flew through thanks to Lydia's spotless credit and fat down payment. Jenna slid the keys across the table on closing day. "You knew exactly what you wanted, and you earned every inch of it," she said. The first weeks in the house were bliss. Lydia painted the kitchen herself, pale blue, with Maya's help. The 2 of them scrubbed windows, polished floors, and laughed until their arms ached. "You really did this," Maya said one night, leaning on a paint roller. "No handouts, no inheritance, no partner. Just you." Lydia smiled, but her heart ached a little. She hadn't told her parents. Part of her still longed for a flicker of acknowledgement. So she sent them a simple email, a photo of the house, her new address, and a line inviting them to visit. She sent Caleb a separate text, more personal. "I did it. I finally have a place of my own. Thought you'd want to know." 3 days later, her phone rang. "What the hell are you doing?" Caleb snapped before she could say hello. "You bought a house?" "Yes," Lydia said cautiously. "With what money?" "With mine. 10 years of saving, 3 jobs, no vacations." "Cut it," Caleb interrupted. "Mom and Dad want to see you. Sunday. Dinner. 6 sharp." The line went dead. That Sunday, Lydia drove 2 hours back to Hartford. The house hadn't changed. Same beige siding, same rose bushes, same chipped welcome sign. Her father opened the door, his face unreadable. "Come in, Lydia," he said. No hug, no smile. The dining table was set with the good china as if for a holiday. Her mother brought out pot roast, her movements sharp, avoiding Lydia's eyes. Caleb and his wife, Emma, sat stiffly on the couch. Dinner was silent except for Emma's nervous chatter about the weather. After apple pie, Thomas finally spoke. "Tell us about the house." Lydia gave simple details. 3 bedrooms, good structure, close to the train. "And how much did it cost?" Evelyn asked, her forecovering. $282,000, Lydia said evenly. "And you saved that alone?" Thomas asked. "Yes," Lydia replied. Evelyn's mouth thinned. "That's not possible. You had student loans. You barely made anything your first job." "I worked 3 jobs. I freelanced. I didn't take vacations. I lived in a closet." Thomas's voice dropped. "You didn't contribute to the family reserve for 10 years. You owe us." Lydia stared at him, stunned. "Owe you? I was 18 when I left." "And you stopped contributing," Evelyn said sharply. "Your brother has given 30% of his income every year. You owe $95,000. Lydia pushed back her chair, her voice trembling. "I owe you nothing. You didn't pay my rent. You didn't cover my food. You didn't even tell me when my brother got married. I starved and worked myself sick to build this life." Caleb crossed his arms. "Mom and Dad are right. You've been selfish. The reserve is for the family's future. You think you're better than us." Lydia's hands shook, but her voice was steady now. "No, I just wanted a life that belonged to me, and I have it now." Evelyn's face went cold. "Then you leave us no choice." 2 weeks later, a courier knocked on Lydia's door. He handed her a thick envelope stamped with the county court seal. She stood frozen on her porch, staring at the words plaintiffs, Evelyn and Thomas Mercer. Her parents had actually filed a lawsuit suing her for $95,000 in misappropriated family resources. For a moment, she couldn't breathe. Then she went inside, sat on the floor, and called Jenna. "They're suing me," she said, her voice breaking, "for buying my own house." Jenna swore under her breath. "Then we fight back." Lydia hired a lawyer, dug up 10 years of bank statements, tax returns, and pay stubs. Her attorney built a case that showed every dollar she'd earned, saved, and spent. In court, Evelyn and Thomas painted themselves as betrayed parents. Caleb testified that Lydia had abandoned her duty to the family. When it was Lydia's turn, she stood on the witness stand and told the judge about the years of surveillance, the secret account, the long nights stocking shelves, the skipped meals, the friendships lost. "I didn't steal anything," she said, her voice steady. "I built this with my own hands." The courtroom was silent as the judge spoke. "There is no legal basis for the plaintiff's claim. The defendant's earnings and savings are her own." Lydia exhaled so hard her shoulders shook. Case dismissed. No liens, no debt, no claim on her house. When she returned home that night, she didn't cry. She didn't even smile. She simply stood on her porch, the brass doorknob cool under her palm, and looked up at the stars. Behind her, the house was quiet, waiting. "Mine," she whispered, her breath slow and sure. "Every wall, every nail, every floorboard. Mine." Then she stepped inside, closed the door, and for the first time in years slept without fear. The next morning, Lydia woke to an eerie stillness. No court date looming, no legal papers on the table. Just sunlight creeping across her living room floor. She made coffee slowly, as if she were learning how to live again. Then her phone buzzed. A text from Caleb. "You've humiliated this family. Don't come back." Lydia stared at the screen for a long time, her heart heavy but no longer breaking. She typed back just one line. "Family doesn't sue you for having a dream." She blocked his number before he could reply. A soft knock came at the door around noon. When she opened it, Jenna stood there holding a small houseplant. "Figured this place could use some life," she said. Lydia took the plant, a lump rising in her throat. "It feels strange," she admitted. "For so long I was just surviving. I don't even know what to do with peace." Jenna smiled. "You live in it. Start small. Buy curtains. Host a dinner that doesn't involve pot roast." That weekend, Lydia drove to the local hardware store and bought paint samples, picture hooks, and a cheap but sturdy bookshelf. She spent the day transforming the empty house into something warmer, playing music loud, dancing barefoot on the hardwood floors as she painted. When Maya stopped by with pizza that evening, she found Lydia sitting cross-legged on the floor, her hair streaked with paint, grinning like a child. "Look at you," Maya said, laughing. "It's like you're finally breathing." Lydia nodded, taking a bite of pizza. "For the first time, I feel like I can choose what my life looks like." They stayed up late, arranging books, hanging thrift store art, and talking about everything, about dreams, about the families they wished they'd had, about the ones they would build someday. "You know what?" Lydia said as they packed up for the night. "Next month, I'm throwing a housewarming party, and I'm inviting people who actually make me feel at home." The party was small but perfect. A handful of coworkers, neighbors, and Maya crowded into the freshly painted kitchen. There were mismatched chairs, borrowed fairy lights, and a potluck spread of simple food. Lydia stood near the window, watching everyone laugh and talk, a soft glow in her chest. At one point, Jenna raised a glass. "To Lydia," she said, "who showed all of us what it looks like to build something with grit and heart." Everyone clapped and cheered. Lydia's throat tightened as she lifted her own glass. "To building a life that belongs to me," she said quietly. As the night went on, she found herself laughing until her stomach hurt. For once, she wasn't thinking about money or survival or being watched. She was just there, fully there, in her own house, surrounded by people who wanted nothing from her except her company. A few weeks later, Lydia received a letter in the mail. The handwriting was unmistakably her mother's. Her hands shook as she opened it, half expecting more accusations. Instead, the note was brief. "We didn't understand. We still don't. But we hope you're happy. Mom." Lydia sat at the kitchen table for a long time, staring at the words. Then she tucked the letter in a drawer and whispered, "I am." She didn't call them. She didn't drive back to Hartford. Some wounds didn't need reopening. Instead, she called Jenna and Maya and invited them over for dinner. "This is what matters," she told herself as she set the table. Plates she had chosen, in a house she had bought, with people she had chosen to share it with. Months later, on a chilly autumn evening, Lydia stood on her porch with a mug of tea, watching the leaves scatter across her lawn. The house was no longer empty. There were curtains on the windows, photos on the walls, a second-hand sofa in the living room. The air mattress had been replaced by a real bed. The house felt alive now, humming with quiet joy. Lydia smiled to herself. The lawsuit, the years of grind, the loneliness, all of it had been worth it. She reached up and touched the doorframe, whispering again, "Mine." This time, it wasn't just about the house. It was about her life, her choices, her hard-won freedom. And as the first stars blinked into view, Lydia felt something she hadn't felt in over a decade, safe, steady, and unshakably whole. Like and subscribe to my channel for more contents like this, and let us know where you are watching from under the comment section.